what I had to learn is that rest is something that doesn't have to be earned. You are worthy of rest.
Hey friends, it's Dr. PBJ with another episode of Disrupting Burnout, and a special episode because I am introducing you to another woman who defines disruption. Now, y'all, listen, we've been on this journey, so you know what I'm talking about. But let me just remind you, when I say women who define disruption, I'm talking about women who are taking hold of their full God-given identity and showing up as themselves, regardless of the career ladder, regardless of what the culture has taught us we're supposed to be. Those women who say, I'm done with that. I'm going to be fully who I am, and that is more than enough. And y'all, today, first of all, let me just take you back to the moment that I met this woman, because I'll never forget it. I was speaking at a conference in Texas, and I remember looking around the crowd from the stage and seeing these beautiful eyes and this beautiful smile. And this woman was locked in. After that event, this woman came to me, and immediately our hearts connected. Immediately. And ever since then, we have walked together. And I just can't wait for you all to meet my sister, Leticia Wilson. She is a champion for college students. She is a daughter, a sister, an auntie of the best. You hear me? She is also a TEDx speaker. She is also a director of academic advising initiatives. Listen, all the things. Her whole resume, her bio will be in the show notes. But I can't tell you everything, because I can't tell it like she can tell it. So it is my honor to welcome Leticia Wilson to the Disrupting Burnout podcast. Thank you for joining me, Leticia.
My Dr. PBJ, thank you for having me here on your platform. Thank you. I'm so humbly grateful to be here.
Listen, I can feel it. I don't know what's about to happen. But I can feel it. I can feel it, and I'm excited about it. So, Leticia, let's get right in. Tell the people who you are.
So, first and foremost, I want to repeat it again for a second time. Thank you, Dr. PBJ, for having me here today. So, who am I? So, if I were to stand naked in the field, I would show up as a human being first.
Come on.
After those attributes are taken away, how do I show up in this world? I show up in this world as a daughter of the Most High God. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I am a Christian. I'm also get the chance to be an auntie. My niece is 3 years old. As far as my race and ethnic background, I do show up in this world as a person from the African diaspora, which means that I'm Cuban, Caribbean, and African American. And I embrace all of the intersectionality of who I am, but I also recognize my power and my privilege because I am a third generation college educated Black woman that's a part of a great sorority called Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which means I am a legacy of 3 legacies of college educated women. And I realize and acknowledge that that is a privilege. I do have the honor to show up. The way I make money is I'm in higher ed and I work as an administrator, but I've had the opportunity to work in many different spaces. But I also get to connect not only with students, but human beings first. Because before they show up as students, their mothers, their fathers, their military vets, they're also working in the field. They're taking care of elderly parents. They're moving. They're trying to climb that corporate ladder or trying to transition to a different field. So they're humans first. So I get to interact with each and every one of those students. but I also get to work with my colleagues since I do work at a community college, because we get students and colleagues from all walks of life. And so what I'm trying to do in this world, Dr. PBJ, is I'm trying to be the best version of myself.
Mm.
I'm trying to show up well and intentionally be in the moment. And that's who I am. My chapters are still being written.
Come on. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, not just for introducing yourself to these folks, but the way you put a bow on that introduction, because somewhere we've been taught that we have to arrive at a thing before you're significant, before you're important, before you're good enough. You have to arrive at a certain place, at a certain thing, get the degree, get the job, get the title. But the truth is, all of our stories are still being written. All of our steps are ordered, and we're still walking. We are still walking. Talk to me about the essence of who you are and how you bring that to all of the spaces that you show up in. I've told you, and I need to tell you publicly, that you change the atmosphere of the space when you walk in. Like, I remember you walking into the room at that conference, and it was like a magnet. Like, Leticia's here. She's here. She's here. It's the truth. It is the truth. Like, you showed up in that room, the energy changed, folks' hearts started smiling. It was like a receiving line. Okay. Like, so talk to me about what you bring when you show up. What causes folks to respond in that way by your very presence?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize that I do that. I just show up in a way that I'm happy to see people, especially in this pandemic when we all have been shut in and just doing this virtual thing. So when I get a chance to engage with people in person, I get excited. And I know that it says in scripture, be the light, be his light. And my name means joy. And so when I go up to be able to engage with people, I want to bring joy because I have the light of God inside of me, right? Because every day that I'm granted to be on this side of the ground is a blessing.
Come on.
And so I get a chance to engage with people like you, with people like my colleagues, friends from afar. So I get excited. So I can't hide my excitement. I don't have a poker face, Dr. PBJ, and sometimes that does not serve me because my face speaks before my mouth moves.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that, but I'm just me.
Mhm.
I'm just me. So thank you for giving me that feedback, though. I didn't.
Oh no, it's real. It's absolutely real. As I follow you and I watch your TED Talk and I go to your website, and you speak specifically about something you call unmuting. So tell us what that means and the significance of unmuting.
Whew. So let me first pause and say I'm still working on unmuting. While I've said a TED Talk, I champion that. I'm still learning how to do that myself every day. So unmuting to me, like I said in my TED Talk, means being able to show up, not only being asked to be at tables, but being able to voice the opinions of your own perspective, but also on account of other people that you're representing, right? But it's a twofold. So not only do you have to be able to unmute, but the cultural climate, the climate of the institution or the company has to be a fertile place where you feel comfortable enough to unmute. And not every space lends itself for you to feel comfortable. I think it's called psychological safety.
Yes.
It doesn't allow you to unmute, but it's a twofold. You have to feel comfortable being able to speak up, share your perspective because you are a champion of your own perspective, but you also have to feel like you're in a space that will not only hear you, but follow up on what you're bringing to the table. So
Mm.
unmuting is outside of this virtual space where we have to hit unmute to kind of speak up, but being able to voice your perspective and knowing that it will be valued is
Yeah.
unmuting.
Yeah, yeah. And when you talk about it will be valued and it's a fertile space, oh, that's powerful. Talk to me practically about what that looks like, because I have worked with a lot of leaders who said, well, this is a great place to work. Like, I don't understand why somebody would not feel comfortable speaking up. What does it look like when it is a fertile space?
Mm. That's a really good question. So, what does it look like when you're in a fertile space? One, that people acknowledge what you've said. So, they don't necessarily have to repeat what you said, but they said, you know what, Leticia, I hear you. And what you said, let's work on that in this way. So, they're already talking about next steps
Mm,
when you open up your mouth and give a suggestion, a recommendation, an opinion, a perspective. One.
yeah.
So they acknowledge you. And then, even after the meeting, or after the meeting, because we know those happen,
Yes.
they follow up and say, you know what, you brought this up in this setting. I wanted to let you know feedback on what has been done as next steps.
Ooh.
So that's what it means to be in fertile ground of unmuting, but then having a place that's fertile. Because just like a plant, Dr. PBJ, if you're in fertile soil, not only will you have growth at the roots, but you'll have growth on top of the soil. So
Mhm.
that's what it means when you're in fertile soil, from my
Oh,
perspective.
that's so good. I need to pause there for a minute, because one of the lessons that I teach companies and organizations, don't ask the people if you don't truly want to hear and if you're not going to do anything about it. How often do we ask the question? We have the employee satisfaction survey, we have the meeting, we have the 100,000 committees, we have it, but no action follows what people have contributed. And it doesn't mean that you can do all the things all the time or even immediately,
Mm-mm.
but at least acknowledge and give me feedback and help me know what to expect. Because when you don't tell me what to expect, I make up my own story. That's human nature. When I don't know what's next, then I start making up a story of what's next, and my story is often worse than the reality. But you left room for that harmful story because you did not follow up, you did not tell me, you did not give me expectations. Even if the expectation is, I need to hear more about this from you, or I need to personally learn more about this so that I can understand and be in a better position to support you, whatever, sometimes the feedback is, I don't know.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Sometimes the answer is, I don't know. And we get so prideful and pompous when we get a title. We get so prideful in feeling like we always have to have the answer. But if you always have to have an answer, why do you need a team? Why do you need other people? You need other people because you don't know it all, and everyone has something to contribute. So even if the follow up is, thank you for making me aware, I'm not proud to say it, but I don't know this. I was not aware, and I'm going to educate myself so that you and I can have a powerful conversation and think about next steps. That's what I'm talking about. So in the vein of unmuting, you shared a concept with me that I have never forgotten. You shared this concept of needing a hall pass. Do you remember this conversation? Do
Yes,
you remember this?
yes, I do.
Listen, I have said it, but I gave you credit every time. So let's protect your intellectual property right now, okay? This thought belongs to Leticia Wilson. We are marking it, all right? We are marking it right now. But you gotta share this.
Oh,
You gotta share this because this revelation is so powerful. So tell the people about the hall pass. Come on.
if I was a little bit lighter, I would be red in the face. But nonetheless, this came up organically, I believe, in our coaching session because I say my Dr. PBJ because yes, she is my life coach, but she's
Mhm.
also, I put a personal pronoun on it, she's mine.
I'm
But
okay with that.
nonetheless, in our conversation, I grew up in a household where you had to put a handle on things. You couldn't just call people by their first names,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
It was either yes, ma'am, Mr. or Mrs., or auntie and uncle, even though you weren't related by blood, right?
Absolutely.
So that I want you to understand the context of where this is coming from before I explain the hall pass mentality.
Mhm.
And then also, I was raised in an environment where you respect your elders. So, elders can mean by age, by title, by just living life, by years existing on this world. And so, in that, I was raised to really respect, and respect means you do as you're told.
Mhm.
And if you want to do something that is outside of the box or that is not told to you, you need to ask for permission.
Mhm.
So now I'll talk about the hall pass mentality. Now, hopefully, that this will make sense. So that has carried into my adult life because of how I was raised. And it's no fault of anybody's, not my mother and my father, because my mother and father have been married for 42 years and they
Come
have
on.
a beautiful marriage, right? And they raised me the best that they get that they can. And they did a darn good job doing
Yes,
it.
they
If I
did.
so say so myself as I clutch my pearls. But I will say, in my adult life, living this life over 4 decades now, because I'll be 40 this year,
Mhm.
I had to relearn what it means to not always ask for the hall pass. So, for example, in work, if I have a training that I'm doing on another campus, I would reach out to my supervisor and say, can I leave at this time? Can I go and set up? One. If I wanted to do something innovative that was never done before, I would ask permission. I have this idea. Can I do it instead of doing it how we've always done it? Could I try it in this methodology? That's the hall pass mentality. If I wanted to take agency and say, I want to apply to be a speaker at this conference, I would ask permission before I even sent in the proposal. That's asking for a hall pass mentality. Or even in a meeting, while I have been invited because I'm an administrator, I would be invited to the table. I would feel a little, as we say in the culture, some kind of way about
Mhm.
speaking up because I didn't want to overshadow or overstep or overspeak over somebody else in the room that may have a title that was 2 titles ahead of me. That is asking for that hall pass mentality. So what I had to rethink and reframe and relearn is I was brought to these tables for a reason.
Come on.
Your voice matters. I shouldn't have to ask permission. Yes, there's a decorum. Yes, there is a way that you approach things. Yes, it depends on your voice intonation and how you say things. Don't get it wrong and don't get it twisted. You
Yes.
still have to come professional and correct. But you have a stake here. You are worthy. That's why you were asked to these tables. So refute that hall pass mentality. That's from grade school when you raised your hand and had to ask for a hall pass so you can go use the restroom. Why is that
Absolutely.
still resonating in your spirit? And you are a professional.
Come
So
on.
yes, you can take the foundation of what was said, but then you need to elevate yourself by action and by thought. So I had to change my mindset, Dr. PBJ, from a fixed mindset on this is how it always has to be done to I need to have the growth mindset within myself to know that these are things that I no longer have to submit to.
Listen, I know it's been a while since I came to you in this way, but I've got something to share with you. You all know that I'm in the process of writing this book, and as I'm doing this, there are strategies and ideas and thoughts that are coming to me that I've never had, and I'm so full. I can't wait to get it to you. And the book is coming this year, but I can't wait until then. I'm seeing the evidence in my life and in the lives of folks that I'm coaching one-on-one, and God has laid it on my heart to create something for folks who may be interested in one-on-one coaching, but you can't afford it. It doesn't fit into your budget. Or maybe you're curious about coaching, but you've never had that experience before. This is for folks who feel like you're marching in place, like you're putting in all the effort, but you're not moving forward. You feel buried and you're ready to move into brilliance. I'm ready to share. I've got some strategies. I've got some things to work through with you. Listen, friends, this is not going to be fancy. There's no fancy sales page. There's no course platform. This is going to be us meeting once a month through Zoom for me to pour out to you what I have and to support you in your journey. That's it. That's it. This is 40, not 40, this is $30 bucks a month. And there has to be some kind of investment, or I've learned that people don't show up, right? But at that level, you deserve $30 a month. You can find $30 a month. So if you have wanted to work with me, but just couldn't find it in your budget, if you've been curious about coaching and just not sure if it was a good fit for you, jump in on the Hard Work Academy 2023. I have, even if we worked together before, friend, you ain't seen this yet. You haven't seen this yet. I am so ready. I'm so full. And I'm ready to share with you, and I'm ready to support you, okay? So listen, if you're interested, join with the link here. Fill out the form. Join us in the Hard Work Academy. We'll kick off in May. We'll meet once a month on Zoom, and we're going to walk this thing out together. Nothing fancy, but let's just get it done. It's time for you to live in brilliance. You need to know what it means to show up in purpose every day, and I'm ready to help you. All right. I can't wait to hear from you, and I'm excited to serve you. I'll see you soon. Bye, y'all. So you said you need the mindset and the behavior or the action. You need both, right? So we don't realize, like, until we come to a moment where someone or where we can have a mirror held up so that we can see ourselves, we don't realize the lessons we've learned and how it directs our behavior or restricts our behavior on a daily basis, right?
That point.
So when you said this to me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Even so, you spoke professionally, even outside of the professional realm, right? Like, how often do we ask for a hall pass for even our own wellness, our own self-care? Who are you checking in with for permission to do the things that you know you need to do? And again, we're not talking about being out here just doing whatever, not caring about, because we are communal beings. We're in community with other people, and we honor those relationships and those bonds. And you don't need permission to be who God called you to be. You don't need a hall pass to show up as yourself on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what the world needs from you. What the world needs from you is for you to be everything that God created you to be. There are enough other people. They got that covered. You're the only one that can be you. You are the single creation. Have you ever considered that? You are the single creation on the whole wide earth that can be you and bring what you were uniquely, I call it your innate unique gift. Your innate unique gift. You are the single creation on the earth that can bring that. The only one. And how many years do we spend toiling and pretending and masking and trying to be somebody else?
Mm.
We were created in our own gifting. So, how do we start to take steps to change that mindset, to change that behavior so that we can unmute, so that we can unmask, so that we can release the hall pass mentality and start to walk into the fullness of who God created us to be?
So I think there's a couple of things that you can do. This is from my experience as
Mhm.
I'm still learning.
Yes.
One is rest, is resistance. That book I read by Dr. Tricia, it changed my whole life, right? Because this hustle culture is violent. We're always trying to reach the new thing, do the other thing, do things for our husbands, our partners, our children, at work, in our civic organization. Everybody's pulling, 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 and we feel like our schedule has to be filled up, or we don't feel like we're being productive. And so when we do take rest, we feel like we have to earn rest. Absolutely not. That's why it says in scripture about the Sabbath, which means rest. But we don't really know what that means, really, especially as women, because
Come
we're
on.
so used to doing the thing for everybody else. And so what I had to learn is that rest is something that doesn't have to be earned. You are worthy of rest. And rest looks differently to everybody. If that means when you come home from work, you don't feel like talking, you just want to put on the TV and start cooking your dinner, that could be your rest. If rest means in the middle of the day for your hour lunch break, instead of taking the whole hour to eat, you're going to take 15 minutes and walk because you have shoes in your office and you're unplugged from technology, that's rest. If rest means that you're going on a family vacation, but on the back end, you're going to stay a couple of more days so you can just have time by yourself because you're tired of peopling or even having family time because you need time to just be with yourself, that could be rest. So I had to change my mindset on earning rest because you have to rest to be at your best.
Mm.
And I had to learn that rest does not always need to be physical rest, but it could be mental rest. That can mean turning off my cell phone, taking off some social media apps, but just saying, I'm going to take this time to love on me. And it's not maintenance. I think people get rest mixed up with maintenance. Maintenance is getting your hair done, your nails done. Dr. PBJ, you talk to me about that. That's just maintenance. But rest is something that you incorporate every day,
Mm.
and it doesn't have to look the same way. So that's the first step. So ask the question again, Dr. PBJ, because I just went off on a tangent and I forgot.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect because the question is, how do we start taking these steps towards unmuting and releasing that hall pass? So let me just sit here for a minute. We got to sit here for a minute because we automatically think there's a doing. When I think, how do I'm waiting on you to give me an action step. I'm waiting on you to tell me the grind, the do, the step, the action. And you literally said, sit down somewhere. Have a seat. Have a seat.
Several.
We have to talk about the power of true rest. And I know that we're hearing it more after or wherever we are concerning the pandemic right now. We're hearing it more, but we are not believing this yet. We still have people who are burnt out, who are overwhelmed, who are just surviving. We are not listening yet. In Western culture specifically, because I can speak to this, we have learned that success means overdoing, overworking, continual toil. And the truth of the matter is, we miss the mark because our brains are not even created to handle the level of pressure that we allow.
Absolutely not.
So our wisdom is stifled. Our creativity is stifled. There are ideas in you that cannot even come forward because you won't rest. There are innovative thoughts in you. There are answers in you that your family needs, that you need, that this world needs, but it can't even come through because you are so overwhelmed and you will not stop to hear your own thoughts. There was a day where we would have quiet at some time. Leticia, I don't know if you remember this. You're just a tad bit younger than me. But do you remember when TVs used to go off? Like Star Spangled Banner, you're not getting nothing else to the next morning. Like TVs are done. Like the channel went off, everything was done, right? Like you didn't get anything else to the next day. And now we got 24 hours of hundreds of channels and opportunities to continue feeding our brain. And not just that, but you have it at your fingertips now. You have it so you don't even have to be in a space where there's a television or a computer. You carry it in your pocket or in your purse or in your bag. And you have access not only to the devastation in your local area, but you have access to know about the devastation from all over the world. There was a day that it would take weeks for us to find out something that is happening on the other side of the world. And now in seconds, you are bombarded with the travesties of this world, not just your town, not just your state, your region, your country, but the whole world. And our brains were not created to manage and hold and process this level or amount of information. And until we take the intentional, and like you said, it is revolutionary.
It is.
It is resistance to take the intentional action to step away from the grind, from the busy, from the running, from the pursuing, from the ladder, to say, I'm going to rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, and rest is not sitting on the couch and doom scrolling on your phone. That's not rest.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, sir.
It's not rest. You didn't give your brain a break.
No.
You didn't stop. You may be sitting, but you didn't stop.
Right.
You may be sleeping, but you're not resting. You're not resting because even in your sleep, you are toiling mentally over all the things that are on your plate. There is no surprise that our mental health crisis is at the level that we're experiencing right now because our minds, our very souls are crying out and calling out to us that they are overwhelmed and they've had enough. So I just had to honor that you didn't give us another step to do.
Mm-mm.
You didn't give us another action to take. Mm-mm. You gave us permission.
Yes.
To stop.
Please. Please.
We have to stop. Greatness will only flow when you're clear. And you can't be clear when you're overwhelmed.
You sure can't.
You can't be. You can't be. So back to the original question.
That's okay. That is okay.
Back to the originally scheduled program. So in case you, because that was powerful enough, but in case you had something else to add, is there anything else that you would offer for us to move forward in unmuting and releasing the hall pass?
Releasing the hall pass and unmuting. 1, it takes the rest so you can be your best. 2, it takes courage. Ooh, yeah. And I want to say that because depending on how you grew up, depending on your culture, it may not feel comfortable. It may not feel natural, your natural inclination to want to unmute, right? Because of culturally, you're taught, you're younger, you have less experience, you're the youngest person in the room, you better be quiet. You can be seen but not heard. And so that filters to your adulthood as well because of the respect of the elders. and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that you dishonor how you were raised, but it does mean that it takes courage enough to say, well, I have something to add to that, and to say it in a respectful manner. But
Yeah.
that's courage to be able to unmute and not ask for the hall pass. So the resting, the courage, it also takes a community. You
Yeah.
talked about that on your last podcast that I listened to, Dr. PBJ. And I'm not talking about, like you said, a community of convenience, like
Yeah.
you talked about. Convenient because they're geographically close, convenient because they're in your same area of occupation, right? You have all these higher ed people. If you're in higher ed, you have all these people that are in the DEI space. You have all these speakers that are a part of your space. But surrounding yourself intentionally with a community of people that are not always your cheerleaders, but are
Mm.
there to see you be your best self. They're not always in your same occupation. My best friend, I'm going to call out her name, Chanel Wheeler. She's
Yeah.
a graphic designer. We've been best friends for almost 20 years. She's known me since sophomore year of college, and I've known her. We have no similarities in our occupations. I have no idea about everything that entails in graphic design. She doesn't know a lot about higher ed, but you know what we do have? We have
Mhm.
each other's back. Just like we say in the sorority, we lean on the shield.
Yeah.
She's not Greek, but she is my best friend. And so having her as my community member, she doesn't live in the same space. She lives in ATL and I'm here in TX, Texas.
Yeah.
Also somebody from different generational point of view. Because while somebody your age, or maybe somebody that's close to your age, may have value, somebody that's more seasoned, that may have 15 or 20 years on you, can say, you know what, you should do this because I wonder what would have happened if I would have took those steps when I was your age.
Mhm.
So they impart pearls of wisdom on you. But also by gender, you need to surround yourself with different people, even outside of who you are by your gender. So
Yeah.
I have males that I revere, like my pastor of my church, the way that he leads, the way that he always gives gratitude. So having those community members allows me to have the courage, allows me to give myself permission to rest, but it
Mhm.
surrounds me with people that insulate what true leadership should be and what it can look like, because they're coming from all these different perspectives, because I'm not siloed in this isolated space of people that just look like me, talk like me, worship like me. But I've surrounded myself, don't get me wrong, I'm surrounding myself with people that are amazing in different parts of their life. So I
Yeah.
have community members that I revere because of the way that they take care of their body, their temple. So they're really good at working out and being diligent about what they feed their body, either mentally or by eating. I may have people that I revere because they're dutiful wives, they're great partners. I may have other people part of my community that are good at financial savviness, right? Because I can always be more financial literate, because it's not about
Yeah.
how much you make, but what you do with the money you do have, right? And then I surround myself with people that are in the speaker lane, right? Because I'm a speaker and consultant. So what does it look like to do the scaling? And so being able to unmute means that I have a community of members, because we're not built to be isolated. We're not. Capitalism says that you should be able to do this by yourself and do it until you work hard and then you're dead and buried
Come
6
on.
feet under. Absolutely not. Because when we leave this earth, it's about the legacy. It's about that dash, Dr. PBJ. It's the dash of when you were born and when you're dead. But what happened in the dash? That's what allows you to unmute.
Mhm.
That's what allows you to not ask for the hall pass, because you have a community of people that are wrapping their arms around you and sharing their experiences, giving you feedback, sometimes wanted, sometimes unwanted. But
True.
they're also just there to say, hey, you're not in this alone.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I love it. I can't say that better. I just want to add one thing when you talk about courage, because I want to fuel courage. As you were saying that, something popped in my heart to remind folks that everybody wasn't raised like you, meaning you may be working with folks who were raised with the privilege to say what they wanted to say when they needed to say it, to express themselves without boundaries. So that means they're probably more free to to express themselves now because they had a privilege growing up to do that. So while you are restricting yourself and your mind is telling you you are not allowed and this is not acceptable, you're at the table with people who don't have that mindset. So if they have the privilege, even now, from childhood to now, if they have the privilege to unmute and speak freely, why not you?
Mm.
Why not you? And here's some fuel for your courage. Why not you? Period. Why not you? Why not you? Why can't you be free?
Mm.
Why can't you rest? Why can't you take a vacation without answering emails and answering everybody's calls? Why can't you have a weekend where you are away from work and not having to worry about anybody else but yourself? Why can't you go away from your home, do something according to your financial level? Because there are many options. Do something according to your financial level that physically gets you away so that you can break away and truly rest. Why not you? Why can't you walk in purpose and be fully who God created you to be? Why not you? God is not a respecter of persons. So if he did it for one, why not you? Why not you? Leticia, listen, we got to let these good folks go. But you know, I can talk to you all day long. Before we go, for those who want to hear more from you, connect with you, maybe work with you, how can they connect with you?
I have to thank you for being in this space. My coach, Dr. PBJ, thank you for having me. You can connect with me. I'm intentionally only on 2 platforms, folks, because that's the way that I rest, is not being inundated with a lot of different social media. So I'm intentionally connected. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also connect with me on YouTube. You can also connect with me if you would like for me to speak at your event, because I believe in empowering you to be your best self, allowing you to let your light shine. So you can connect with me at leticiawilson.com, which is my name. And then you can connect with me on LinkedIn because I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and I would love to engage with you. I do reply to direct messages or DMs, as they call it, but I would love to work with you. I would love to talk to you about your journey. And like I said, I'm still learning, but what I've learned, I want to share.
Mm,
Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. All of Leticia's information will be in the show notes. So you can just click and connect with her right away. You need to do that. You need to do that. If you are ready for your light to shine, if you are ready to be unapologetic about who you are and who God created you to be, if you know you've been muted,
Mm.
if you know you've been living by the hall pass mentality, you need to reach out to Leticia Wilson. I know you let this light shine on you, friend. You ain't got no choice but to shine. I know that. So, Leticia, I'm grateful. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Thank you for allowing me to journey with you. It's always an honor, and I'm always so doggone proud. So, thank you, my sister.
Thank you.
As always, friends, you know that you are powerful, you are significant, and you are loved. Love always. PBJ. Bye, y'all.